Hello my friends, hello everybody, welcome to this new episode of Sartorial Talks. Today we're not going to speak about men's style, we're not going to speak about men outfits, we're not going to speak about bespoke tailoring or shoes or ties or shirts or everything that we normally speak about. Today we're going to speak about something which is close to my heart, close to our subject, because I consider it's important for a gentleman to know this kind of subject, of course if you like it. And also it's answered a question, a request that we received from you directly to try to broaden a little bit the scope of our subject and topics. And this is why today I have the pleasure to receive a very important guest to speak about les vins de Bourgogne, Burgundy wine. And I have the pleasure to have with me a winemaker from Burgundy whose name is Jean Lupatelli. Hello Jean, welcome to this.
Hello. Thank you for welcoming me.
Yeah, with great pleasure. So we're going to have a discussion with Jean for maybe 20-30 minutes about Bourgogne. But first of all, I would like to say a few things about this region and why we decided to dedicate an episode to this region and to this specific wine. First of all, I decided to do it because I love it. Well, that's very easy. This is my channel, and Sonia, she's American. She's been a great fan of Bourgogne wine since a long time. Secondly, I think that there's a need of education, and I don't have this is why we have Jean with us today. I don't have the pretension to educate you on Burgundy, because this is what we say. It's quite easy to understand wine when you speak about the grapes, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Pinot Noir. You in the US, if you look at this program, you are very trained, you are very used to that, to describe a wine by its grape. Here in France, it's a little bit different. And if you go to Bordeaux, for example, it's a little bit different. But still, Bordeaux, it's easy to understand. It's big regions and it's quite easy to understand. Burgundy, it's much more complicated. And this is why I wanted to have a specialist to really deep dive together in this beautiful luxury product, which is wine from Burgundy. So, first of all, I would like to say that I invited Jean because I like the wine he's making, which is kind of normal. So Jean is working for a winery called Domaine de Villa, which is, when was Domaine de Villa founded, Jean?
It's a quite new history actually, because it was created 10 years ago.
Yes.
First vintage in 2010, so it's not very old for an old region.
Yes.
And it moved a lot from the beginning to these days. Especially by the creation of our own domain, created year after year, block after block, when we had some opportunities to buy great terroir to add to our own vineyards.
Yeah, I must say that maybe not many people know that, but in Bourgogne, it's quite difficult to acquire some land, right?
It's very difficult actually. It's very expensive when you have the opportunity to buy something.
Yes.
But it's very rare to have opportunities, and you only can buy vineyards if you pay a lot, or if you're inside in Burgundy and you have the net to know when some opportunities are. And so building his own domain is something long. It takes
and expensive
time.
and costly. Yeah. And there's a lot of competition also around, and you are judged very well. Okay. Can you speak a little bit about, I don't want to go too far in the genesis of this domain, but as far as I understand, even if it's a new domain for Burgundy, fairly new, a decade, I think that these two gentlemen, Mr. Decel and Mr. Villa, there's the name Decel Villa, for which you are the winemaker. They are not new in the world of wine, right?
Of course not. The two founders, Olivier Decel and Pierre-Jean Villa, are for decades very well known in the wine production in France.
Yes.
Olivier Decel, he's for many years the owner of Domaine du Massamiel, which is a very famous property in the south part of France.
Yes.
It's a very well-known property for especially for fortified wines.
Yeah, sweet wine, right?
Sweet wines,
yes.
like kind of ports, this kind of very sweet wines, but also for dry wines for recent periods.
Yes.
And this is a beautiful and big property, very
Mas Amiel.
historic.
Mas Amiel. We're going to write it on the screen. Mas Amiel.
The brand MA is very famous here in France.
Okay.
And, that speaks a lot to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And he also has a beautiful property in Saint-Émilion, very close to La Dominique and Cheval Blanc.
Wow.
So the heart of the greatest terroir in Saint-Émilion.
Yes.
18-hectare property whose the name is Château Jean Fort.
So, just 1 second. 18 hectares. If you're using the imperial system and not the metric system, I have to translate you. Let's say that 1 hectare is 2.5 acres. So 18 acres, let's say around 20 acres will be 45 acres, something like that. So let's say 40 acres, sorry.
Yes, so that was the main activity of Olivier de Selle before settling in Burgundy.
So Mas Amiel in the south of France and Château Jean Fort in Saint-Émilion.
In Saint-Émilion. Mm-hmm. And as a lot of wine lovers, he had the secret fancy to settle in Burgundy. Yeah. But he did it by himself in the south, in Bordeaux, because he felt able to do it by himself. Mm-hmm. But Burgundy is something, very mystic for people, even for people coming from the wine production. Yes. And he didn't feel able to do it by himself here in Burgundy. Yes. So he wanted to be helped by a friend or something to associate with in Burgundy. Yeah. And he asked his old friend Pierre-Jean Villa, who is also a famous vine grower in North Côte-du-Rhône. Mm-hmm. And who had a previous experience in Burgundy several years ago, to come with him and to join him and create something in Burgundy.
Pierre-Jean Villa, donc that's
Pierre-Jean Villa. Okay. So Pierre-Jean have his own domaine Pierre-Jean Villa in the North Rhône, making Côte Rôtie, Condrieu, Saint-Joseph.
Côte Rôtie, beautiful wine actually. Very complicated to do in a very specific terroir. When we say terroir, we mean soil. But I think we use terroir in English also. Yes. So the Côte Rôtie, if I remember, is something with very steep, very dry, very. The weather is very different than here. Yes, so it's a very typical wine also. It's a good
with fantastic with Syrah actually.
Yes. So that's Mr. Villa.
That's Mr. Villa, and this domain is one of the top domain there and very well known everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. And Pierre-Jean used to work for a great domain in Burgundy 20 years ago, so he had a good experience in Burgundy. Yes. So when Olivier asked him to join him and start doing something in Burgundy, he say, "Okay, I come with you." So they founded the Selle Villa. Yeah. They found a winery, an old winery in the heart of Nuit Saint-Georges that we rehabilitate, and we started making wine, but we didn't have any vineyards, and they really wanted to take time, not coming as very rich people trying to buy anything. So they wanted to start making wine. Yes. So the solution for us was to try to ask friend vine growers here in Burgundy, and convince them to sell us
grapes at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. So that I may just make a comment for that people. This is a good thing that Jean is explaining. Is that the difference between what we call maison and domain? It's very specific in Bourgogne. Maison means you are buying grapes and then you are doing your wine. It doesn't mean it's bad. You can be extraordinary, by the way, because normally when you do that, the wine growers, the people who are growing the vineyards. But at the same time, if you really want to go the extra mile, is to really become the high reputation Burgundy winemaker, you have to own your own land. And I have a question for you, because you said, as far as I understand, Mr. de Selle and Mr. Villa, they are successful already. Yes. And they are very successful, even we can say. So it's not a problem of means, it's not a problem of money, of course. I don't know all the details, but do you mean that when you say Mr. de Selle couldn't make it alone in Burgundy, does it mean that even if I have the mean to buy a Bugatti. I can't buy a Bugatti. I have to know how to do it. Why is it so? It's almost very mysterious for the people of Bourgogne. Why is it so mystical? Why is it so complicated to set up here?
Actually, we don't know. It's a very fragmented region with a lot of different appellations, with 2,000 years of tradition.
Yes.
So you can't just come like that and say, okay,
hello, I want to make
wines
yes.
and make noise everywhere. And that's not the right way to be accepted and you have to start slowly without any noise.
With humility.
Being quiet and trying to make good, that's the beginning. Okay. And after a long time, maybe 300-400 years, maybe you will be a wine grower in Burgundy and start your own history. But
that's very funny. So it's very different from other regions in France, right?
It is.
Yeah.
So the philosophy was really to do it very quietly and very, discrètement, we say in France.
Discreetly. Yeah.
And just try to find the best quality grapes from good Burgundian appellations.
Yes.
And try to make great wines with that.
Yes.
Try to be ready to buy beautiful small blocks of vineyard if we have opportunities.
Yes.
And try to make our own vineyards and make wine with that. And that takes a very, very long time.
So fast forward today, you managed to buy some.
Yes, years after years, we succeeded in buying some pieces of vineyards. We were very, strict on what we wanted as pieces of vineyard with old vineyards.
Yes.
Massal selection without any clones. Beautiful terroir with real identity. So that was a lot of arguments that make it getting very hard. And we were not looking at every price to a very, very high appellation, very, very famous,
like Claude Vougeot.
No, we really wanted to focus on not very, very well-known appellations in Burgundy, but with great terroir, like Savigny-les-Beaunes, Beaune, Chauray-les-Beaunes, some Haute-Côte, and also some more famous appellations from Burgundy. So we've got currently 10 hectares. 10
hectares will be 25 acres.
Yes, which is our own vineyards.
Okay.
We do the vineyard, we work on the vineyard with our own team.
Yes.
It's an organic certified vineyards.
Okay.
And organic. We really decided from the beginning, as soon as we bought a new block, a new vineyards, to convert it on organic.
It takes a lot of work to convert a vineyard?
It takes 3 years.
3 years.
Before you start, until you're certified, because the organic certification suppose that you need 3 years to eliminate all the chemicals that could be used before in the land. So
and you replace them with natural stuff.
The vine working, the disease product that you use are organic, so you don't use any more chemicals, herbicides, and everything.
So now 25 acres organic.
Yes.
And then you continue
about 80% of the whole production, 85 I would say. And we kept some, not contract, because in Burgundy you don't have contract.
You don't have contract in Burgundy.
You just have...
it's just the word.
Yes, the word between two guys. But
you're serious, it's still like that, even at this level, because we speak about
no contracts.
We speak about significant amount of money in Burgundy.
No,
this
you
is
just
gold.
stop in the end, and if the guy when I was looking for grapes to buy, I knew some vine growers, and I asked some of them, which are good vine growers, if they would like to sell me some grapes, and some of them decided to do it because they are friends, or they were seduced by the project, and they were happy to help a bit, but that was maybe 600 kilograms of grapes, just very, very small amounts. And that's the only way to make business with this kind of people, just trust and words.
Touch the hand and you tell
and that turn, year after year, we keep this partnership, and we are making the wines from these grapes year after year, always from the same block. I'm allowed to make the picking by myself with my own team in order to make to be very, very sure of the picking time, which is very important for me. So this part of both grapes, for wines coming from both grapes, it's about 15%.
Okay.
The whole production that we do is very, very small in a very, very small region, but we make the best, a normal good year, something like 50,000 bottles.
Yeah,
which is very, very small.
It's small.
We work on a very haute couture way because it's a very long and hard work on very, very small cuvées.
Yes.
Some of these cuvées, there are less than 600 bottles.
I know.
It's only 2 barrels,
I know.
which is something quite normal for us.
Yes.
And the biggest cuvée that we do is something like maybe 4,000 bottles every year.
Which is ridiculously small.
Yes. On these 10 hectares, we've got more than 25 different pieces of vineyards.
Yes.
Separated by maybe 2, 3, 4, 10 kilometers each other. So it's a very spread vineyards with small pieces of
the vineyards and the appellation Jean is talking about. Some names may has a resonance in your head, like Pommard, like Savigny-les-Beaunes, like Chorey-les-Beaunes, like Von Romanet, like Meursault. All this. You're right. It's kind of mythical name a little bit. When people love white wine, you think about Meursault, and of course, when you love Burgundy wine, Von Romanet and Pommard, even if I heard somebody say recently that Pommard was a little bit more rustic than Volnay, even if they are very close to each other. But that's another debate, Yes. Everything is a debate in Bourgogne, because this is, even if I live here myself and I'm passionate with wine, I can tell you it's a lot of work to try to understand, because in the USA, I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but in the USA for sure, in many countries, you are used to buy, as I said at the beginning, Pinot Noir or Chardonnay or Merlot or Cabernet Sauvignon. So you are buying a grape and a style of wine, and it doesn't really matter for most of people where it's coming from. Of course, in California, in the Napa Valley is very, very famous. Oregon also is very famous too. The Washington State is very famous. But mainly you choose wine depending on the grape. And so I take this opportunity to explain to you that in Burgundy, or even in Bordeaux, but specifically in Burgundy, it's not organized like that. You don't speak about the grape. First of all, it's quite easy to understand. Jean, am I right if I say that in Burgundy almost 100%, or maybe 95% is Pinot Noir, right?
Yes, you're right.
Yes. And in the white is Chardonnay mainly?
Yes.
100% Chardonnay?
Yes, for all the appellation actually, except Aligoté, which is something very special.
Yeah, but it's very...
All the famous appellations are from 100% Chardonnay.
And Chardonnay is originally from Bourgogne, right?
From the region, yes.
Yes. We're very proud of that, because now it's spread everywhere around the world, but it's originally from Bourgogne. So the way the wine is organized here is very, it's not easy to understand if you really want to deep dive in all the cru and premier cru and grand cru. It's literally, when you go to Nuits Saint-Georges, for example, you take a curve, and even close to the road, it's planted. Because the terroir and the land is so expensive that every square meter is optimized. You literally in an ocean of grape, because it's funny, because we were with Sonia. My wife, she asked me for her birthday to go to Beaune. This is actually how we met Jean. And she was so happy to go there. And we remember all our life when on this curve like that, normally you expect that on a curve, you have a little bit of shade. No. Very close to the road, there's vineyard, because it's like gold in Bourgogne. So how is it organized? You have I speak under the control of Jean, because he's the specialist. So you have the generical appellation of the region. It's called Bourgogne. So you have to be inside a certain perimeter to have the right to be called Bourgogne. Then if you go up in terms of quality and in terms of, I would say, because regional Bourgogne can be delicious wine actually, but if you want to go more inside some specific soil, some specific terroir, then you go to what we call the villages. So the wines are taking the name of the villages: Savigny-les-Beaunes, Chorey-les-Beaunes, Nuits Saint-Georges, Pommard, etc., etc. And then, if you want to go even further, you have what you call the parcel. That is to say, this side of the hill above Nuits Saint-Georges is called as a name. This is why I was saying to you that it may take a lifetime to know all these by heart, because I know you studied this even at college.
But I've been making wine in Burgundy for 20 years, and I can't say that I understand everything, and I always discover new specific vineyards that I didn't knew before.
Isn't it crazy? That's crazy. I like that, and it's by. Can we say without lying that if we're sitting here and if we go 10 meters, it can change soil?
Of course, and it's due to the very specific geologic history of Burgundy, which is a specific kind of vineyards that we call seismic fail vineyards. Okay. Because the vineyard is settled in a very small line from the north to the south. Settled on an old seismic fail, which is the coast actually, and that makes something very unique because of this very, very strong and hard history. Yes. That makes this mainly clay and limestone terroir. Yes. Changing very rapidly from one meter to one other. Yes. In a very large range of variation of clay and limestone, but making different results with the same variety, Pinot Noir or Chardonnay, from 1 meter to 1 other meter. So do you mean, Jean, that literally a meter and a half can make a huge difference in even the texture of the wine, in its taste? Of course it does, and that's what is amazing in Burgundy, and people really have to understand what you can understand when you come here. Yes. That's on a very, very, very small region, which is Burgundy. The heart, which is Côte d'Or, with Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune, is something tiny in terms of size. It's a small strip, basically. Yes, and it's less than 5% of the world French production, which is nothing in the world production. Wow. So you are speaking about very, very, very small production. And in this very small region, you've got more than 100 different appellations. This is crazy. When you go from Dijon, the north, to Chagny, the south, it's something like maybe 80 kilometers. 80 kilometers will be 50 miles or 60 miles, something like that. And you've got 100 appellations in such a small place. Yes. And when you go through the vineyards by foot, just walking around, you can, without knowing, going through 3, 4, 5 different appellations. Wow. Because it's changing very fast. And of course it's different, because between Clos Vougeot and Échezeaux, you only have one small wall. And it's not the same wine at all. You mean Clos Vougeot and Échezeaux. So let's just 1 second. So we're talking here about Clos de Vougeot in Échezeaux and Grand Échezeaux. These are at the very summit of the pyramid, right, in Burgundy. In Bourgogne, this is among the most prestigious wine. So you were just saying that between a Clos de Vougeot and an Échezeaux, you can only have a wall. Yes, or and it's two different wines. A very small road, or and that's the only way. So what is very hard in Burgundy is, when you own a piece of vineyard, it's a very small piece in a large vineyard, I mean in the total appellation. Yes. So we've got some blocks which are only made by 4, 5, 6 rows of vineyards. Yes. Between all the rows of all the other vineyards. So it's not very easy. And when you've got a new tractor driver, or you have to make sure that he knows that from here to here it's your own vineyards, but if you go the road just after without any separation and anything, it's another vine grower, so he doesn't have to go here and doesn't have to make any mistake, especially when picking. Yes. In order to avoid picking the other vineyard, or so that's mesmerizing. This is very fascinating for people, and now you understand more and more why. Okay, I don't want to speak too much about that, but I mean, we know that in the United States, for example, in the UK, it's the same as Burgundy wine. It's not cheap. It's not. You have to put a price, and I think there's no secret in that, because, as I said, you can find your Bourgogne that I taste. The regional Bourgogne that you make is affordable, but it's a very good. You can feel, the soil. It's a real Bourgogne, beautiful for. I would say not for every day. If you have the wallet, you can drink it every day, but it's a very good wine. Yes, but what is interesting here is that, you understand more. Of course, sometimes we say, how can people buy a wine for $200 or $300 from Bourgogne? But when you understand
that the price of the vineyard, these appellations are so close to each other. It's a tiny production, it's rare. And well, this is just a law in the world. What is rare is more expensive than what is available everywhere. And that's what Bourgogne is all about. But also, there's something I want to discuss with you, is that I had some American friends, because you know my wife Sonia is American, so we are visited by American people. And I remember one day I was with one of my good friends. We were in London, and his wife is Australian. And so we were in a beautiful restaurant, classy restaurant. And of course, as they know, I'm a French and I'm supposedly a wine expert, or to say the least, a wine connoisseur, let's say. They asked me to choose a wine. And I said, well, I'm going to make you discover Bourgogne. And so I ordered something like, I think it was a Volnay, or I don't remember exactly what I ordered. It was not memorable, actually. It was just, you know, normal wine, but Burgundy. And I remember the face of this woman coming from Australia. She was tasting that. And she was saying, it's very light. I said, yeah, it's Burgundy. It's very, she went as far as to say it can feel a little bit watery at the beginning for them, because, you know, Australia, as far as I know, you worked in Australia in the past, right?
Short some months in Australia when I was a student.
So you know how they make wine there. Yeah.
I have an idea, I would say, of the way. But what we have to really understand about Burgundy is I was talking about this very, very hard to see variation of soil.
Yes.
And to explain that, which is the base of the appellations in Burgundy,
yeah.
You have to be, very light in terms of winemaking,
yes.
in terms of vine growing, and in terms of variety. And
yes.
it's why we work with this very fine and light variety, which is the Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
It's because if you plant Cabernet Sauvignon on our kind of terroir,
yes.
you won't see any difference between here and here. That we have to show.
Know that.
So we need this very light.
You mean Pinot Noir? Pinot Noir has a reputation to be one of the most difficult grapes to work with.
And the more, the best translator to the terroir, from the terroir, actually.
So you mean, if you plant, so that I'm sure that I understand, if you plant a Cabernet Sauvignon on a...
Which is a quite strong and powerful
yes,
variety.
Yeah. On a Burgundy, from here to here, you will not feel the difference.
It's not delicate enough to explain the differences between some terroirs. So
and this is why you only use Pinot Noir.
So we need this very fine terroir, which is the Pinot Noir,
yes.
and we need a special way of vine growing, which is the high density planting.
Yes.
We're the only region everywhere in the world, as I know, working on very high density vineyard with 10,000 feet per hectare. That means that the rows of vines are separated by only one meter, and with 1 feet every meter. That's the minimum legal that we can do in Burgundy. So it's high densities.
Yeah.
We need special tractors to work on the ground with this kind of plantation.
Yes.
Going over the row.
Yes.
We're the only people using such crazy machines in the wine production everywhere in the world.
Wow.
And that makes the production prices very expensive, because when you're pruning on a high density 10,000 feet per hectare vineyards, it's much longer than when you're on a 4,000 feet per hectare vineyards. Mm-hmm. So that makes an explanation for the price of Burgundy wines, which are expensive.
Yeah. And then also it makes, I must admit, now it's the wine I drink preferably. I still like Spanish wine sometimes of high level. I still like, so I can even like some Australian wine when it's well made and it's not too much, there's not too much sugar and too much the hand of the man inside. That's the problem. I don't want to speak against any kind of region, but what I understand also, and we will finish this first part of our discussion on that idea, is that the first time I visited you, I remember you granted us, it was Sonia's birthday. So Jean granted us with a barrel testing. And so we were very blessed to have the opportunity. And I remember Jean asking me, what do you want to taste? And around me, I was in this beautiful cuverie. The cuverie is a French name in which we keep the barrels to grow the wine, literally. And I remember I was looking around me, I would see Savigny-les-Beaunes, Beaune, Pommard, and I said, this is for me like a, Willy Wonka, right? Charlie et la chocolaterie. You mean it's like a fantasy land for me, because yes. I was able to look, you know, and everywhere I was looking at, there was a name. I was saying, wow, that's what, Louis Saint-Georges. I mean, Louis Saint-Georges is a big name in the world of wine. Still, it's, how would you explain that, you are from Burgundy originally, you've been studying here?
Yes, yeah. I've been adopted by Burgundy when I was starting my winemaking studies in Beaune and then in Dijon.
So you're really a man from here?
Yes,
yeah.
I can say.
But sometimes it's, how do you explain that, what is your experience about all these wines, even the biggest name? Am I right if I say that it's wine they need, even in your mouth? Everything needs time. We need time in Burgundy. You need time to buy land. You need time to have a reputation. You need time to be trusted by people. But also the wine need time in the glass or in the bottle to open itself. And even in your mouth, and that's what I want to go, it's not like an Australian wine or even a Cabernet Sauvignon from America or even other wines from Bordeaux. You don't take a big hit in your head like a punch. You have to work on it a little bit and you have to understand. How is that right? Do I have
yes,
the right
it is.
To say
you know,
that?
Making wine everywhere in the world, but I would say especially in Burgundy, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
You've got first the fermenting and then the aging, which could be very long. We used to keep the wine in barrels for more than 15 months, sometimes 20 months.
Yes.
Then the bottling, then the bottle aging, which could be very, very long. Some of these appellations can be kept in the cellar for 20 years, 25 years.
Yes.
You can't just open and drink it.
Yes.
And the life of the wine when in glass is not finished, is another life who starts.
Yes.
And the wine will change from the first instant you put the glass into the wine into the glass.
Yes.
And half an hour after, and 2 hours later,
can be totally different.
You really need time if you want to see all the different aspects of the wines.
But my question is more about the palate. Is that I understand that very well, but the thing is that I've seen the face of American people drinking. That's it.
So you are talking about the
I mean, how do you educate? It takes time. Am I right to say that? Because me now, I'm a big fan. It's difficult for me. I can even say to you, when there's too much sugar in a wine, I can immediately feel it, and I have half a headache now because I'm very used to this quality of wine, and that this is why I wanted also, because you know the Sartorial Talks is broadcasted, I mean, on our YouTube channel pretty much around the world. I think we looked with Sonia recently, we speak to 130 countries, but we have a lot of people following us in the USA and the UK. So it's just something I wanted to debate with you, because even me, I'm a wine lover since a long time. I'm French, it's part of our blood almost. I was raised in the wine culture, but Burgundy takes a little bit of a patience. And when I say patience, I'm not speaking, my friends, about years, but even when you drink a bottle of Bourgogne and when you have it, even in the span of time when the wine is in your mouth, it's a different experience. You really have to chew it to really understand it, and you will discover something great. Just one thing that you may not know, when I was saying in the last episode that we were speaking here in Bourgogne from our house, actually, we are living in the north of Bourgogne, which is the region very well known for his white wine called Chablis, of course. So it's the north of Bourgogne. Jean, where he's working, is in Nuit Saint-Georges, is between Côte de Beaune and Côte de Nuit. This is more, I would say, an hour and a half, 2 hours from here.
Yes, 1.5.
It's close to Dijon. And then a little bit south, you have another region called Côte Chalonnaise, if I'm right. And you also have the Mâconnais, which is
yes, which is a part of Burgundy.
Explain to us how does it go? Is it Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune, or the reverse?
Yes, when you come, I mean the Côte d'Or, which is the département,
yes,
where is the vineyards start from Dijon, going south with the Côte de Nuit, because the main wine village is Nuit Saint-Georges, Côte de Nuit.
Yes.
And going south, the vineyard continue, and you start the Côte de Beaune with Beaune, the very well-known Beaune,
yes,
which is the main city in Côte de Beaune.
Beautiful city, by the way.
Beautiful city.
Yeah.
So Côte de Nuit is something like maybe 25 kilometers long, and Côte de Beaune about the same.
Yeah, 25 kilometers would be 60 miles. 16 miles.
So the main village in Côte de Nuit will be some very famous names like Chambol-Musigny, Gevrey-Chambertin, Vaune-Romanée, Nuit Saint-Georges.
Yes.
Some of these very famous
famous.
villages, especially for reds.
Yes.
And Côte de Beaune, the most famous village are Beaune, of course, Meursault, Puligny, Pommard.
Meursault, Puligny more for the white wine?
For the whites, the three very famous villages for the whites Chardonnay are Meursault, Puligny and Chassagne.
Yes.
The real name is Puligny-Montrachet and Chassagne-Montrachet.
Yes.
And some very red, very famous appellations for reds like Pommard, Volnay,
yes,
and some others appellations.
Okay. So and then you have Côte Macron.
And then if you continue on the south side, you arrive in Côte Chalonnaise.
Chalonnaise, yes. We say Chalonnaise because of Chalon-sur-Saône.
Because of Chalon-sur-Saône, yes, which is a quite big city in this area.
Yes.
And it's a very well-known vineyard for whites, Chardonnay especially.
Of course.
And then...
Like Rully, for example,
like
from Côte Chalonnaise?
Rully, yes, it's Côte Chalonnaise, like Mercurey, like some other appellations.
Yes.
And going south, you go to Mâconnais, which is a quite important vineyard making whites and reds from Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Okay. If I say, for example, Fissin is from Côte Chalonnaise?
Yes, Fissin is always a problem when you show a Fissin for a tasting to English people or American people. Yes. The name is a real problem for them because saying Fissin instead of Fixin.
Yes. Because the orthograph of Fissin, it's not our subject because it's really south of what we're talking about, but Fixin is Fixin, but in France we say Fissin.
Yes,
actually,
Fissin.
It's a very interesting one. This is not the subject of today, and so it's. Am I right that Côte Chalonnaise and Mâconnais are more affordable wines? If I'm right.
Yes, we can say the most famous appellations. The smallest production is coming from the deep heart of Burgundy, which is Côte de Nuit and Côte de Beaune.
Of course, so around the villages of Nuit Saint-Georges and of Beaune. Absolutely. Beaune, by the way, which is a worldwide famous because of the Hospice de Beaune, and it is a beautiful town, and it's literally a town which is dedicated to wine. I mean, this is a wine town. We were there with Sonia. That's an incredible. Actually, I must say I have a little problem with when there's too many tourists around, and it's for me it's not my lifestyle to be too much like that. But I must admit that despite that, it's an absolutely gorgeous city.
And you came during a very quiet period, which was last November after harvest, so that was getting more quiet. But it's getting very crazy during the very famous wine auction.
Yes.
That takes
place.
It's
Hospice de Beaune.
At the end of November every year, and which is a very, very crazy event, international event, with buyers from everywhere in the world, and buying wines at crazy prices.
Crazy, I know, this is crazy.
That's amazing.
There's something I would like to discuss with you, and then after we're going to look at the wines, and maybe if I'm a good guy, you will allow me to open one of these bottles. But before that, everybody talks, it's like somehow, in Bordeaux, when you buy the first wine, it's so expensive, but sometimes when you go to the second wine or third wine, you can find some very good stuff at very more affordable prices. This is not the case in Burgundy, but there's something you should know. You take the city, and then you go to the villages around. And for example, everybody knows Beaune or Beaune Premier Cru, which is a kind of a glorious wine, very, very specific. But if you go to the villages around that have Beaune in their names, Savigny-les-Beaunes, Chauray-les-Beaunes, you can find one that are, for me, for my personal taste, exceptional. I mean, there was a real Burgundy identity, but still a little bit more, well, quote-unquote affordable, because we're in Bourgogne, of course, so nothing is totally affordable, but quote-unquote more affordable. And specifically me, I really love, as you know, Savigny-les-Beaunes, which is, as far as I know, Savigny-les-Beaunes is one of your signature, we can say that?
Yes, we can say that, and the heart of our vineyard is in this area.
Yeah.
Savigny-les-Beaunes, Chauray-les-Beaunes, there are village category, so it's exactly the same category that
as Beaune or Pommard or
Vineyard or Geographic, but it used to be less well-known appellations everywhere in the world, and actually we don't really know why, but in terms of terroir quality it's the same, and it's amazing to see such a large range of different terroirs, small appellations like Savigny, Chauray-les-Beaunes, and it's why we decided to focus our vineyard building on this kind of appellations, this region, and it's why you could say that we are a kind of specialist about some very specific terroir in Savigny-les-Beaunes, many different vineyards, Chauray-les-Beaunes, some Beaune Premier Cru as well, and that's the heart of our range.
So, it's a tip that we share with you. Don't say it too much to your friends, because if you tell it too quickly to your friends, they may start to buy massively Savigny-les-Beaunes and Chauray-les-Beaunes, and the price will grow, because even if they are affordable and they are lesser known among the great public, I know a lot of wine connoisseurs, they know their Bourgogne, and they know that sometimes a fantastic Savigny-les-Beaunes can even be on par at the same level as an appellation that you're going to pay probably 10 times more. But that's a little secret, so don't tell it too much, because I want to have Savigny-les-Beaunes in my cave for all my life, so don't buy everything about that. So now, let's see what we have on the table, because of course, as a winemaker, Jean didn't come with empty hands. It's the tradition here, so he brings us a little bit of treasures from Burgundy. So I'm going to show you some bottles. Let's see what we have here. We're not going to open everything. I can tell you, we prepared 2 glasses. So we're going to have a degustation in front of you, and we're going to not only to just try the wine, but also to have a discussion with Jean and how, because there's a language to speak about wine, and this language is, even for a connoisseur and an amateur, for me, remains a little bit mysterious. But so that's why we want to exchange and how to appreciate the wine and how to speak about the wine. By the way, my wife Sonia, she's very good. She's a very good palate. I can tell you, better than me, but I have a better nose. It's very strange, because me, when I have a really developed nose, and my palate is very developed. I love wine, of course, but Sonia, she's more precise on how she can name things. With the palate, it's more difficult for me. It's very strange. I don't know how to explain.
Everybody is different in terms of wine tasting, actually.
Yes, but you, as this is your job, you have to study this, right? It's part of your.
Actually, I did, and it's everyday work. I taste a lot of wines every day, and for a long time, so it's a special skill, I would say.
Of course, just for our watchers once again, when Jean said he's tasting a lot of wine every day, winemakers, they spit the wine when they drink wine. Of course, they have to, otherwise
we have to.
You will not survive.
Except on special occasion, but
of course.
Normally, yes.
Well, maybe today you're gonna drink the wine for once.
I will.
Okay, so let's try. Let's see what we have here. So here we have what we call a Bourgogne. So that's a regional. This is a white. We have 2 bottles of white in front of us. So this is Bourgogne. It's typically what we call a regional thing.
Exactly.
Okay. And so this is 100% Chardonnay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been tasting this wine, beautiful wine, Chardonnay. So the original Chardonnay is from Burgundy. So this is the original Chardonnay. So you understand the grapes that are in this bottle, they are 100% Chardonnay, but they can come from different vineyards, right? It's not specifically one parcel.
Of course, but what is, common to all these vineyards is the appellation, the soil classification,
yes,
which says that this place is in the regional category.
Okay.
And few meters away, the classification for the other place
Yes.
could be village. So if it's in Meursault, it's a Meursault. If it's in Beaune, it's a Beaune.
Yeah.
If it's in Gevrey-Chambertin, it's a Gevrey-Chambertin.
So what you're saying to me right now is that some, let's say, regional Bourgogne, which is kind of a generic appellation for Bourgogne, which is very small, but we say generic appellation. This one, some grapes can be extremely close to
Yes.
big names.
Everything is linked to the soil.
Yes.
And every soil is in one of these four categories.
Okay.
So if you go, for instance, you go to in Pommard,
Yes.
in the Pommard vineyards,
Yeah.
some blocks, some part of the vineyard will be classified onto regional appellation.
Yeah.
That will make Bourgogne Pinot Noir
Yes.
or Bourgogne Chardonnay, even if we
If
don't
it's
have
white.
any in Pommard, but
Yeah.
Bourgogne Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
And in the same vineyard in Pommard, some pieces of vineyard will be classified onto village
Yes.
appellation.
Yes.
So it would be a Pommard,
Pommard.
regular Pommard.
And even Premier Cru.
And some other blocks could be classified onto Premier Cru.
Yeah.
So that would be a Pommard Premier Cru, and you add the name of the specific vineyards.
like Les Epenots,
like Les
for
Epenots.
example. Yes.
And some other very small places could be on the Grand Cru classification.
crazy.
You don't have any in Pommard, but if you go in Vosne Romanée,
Yeah.
you have La
course,
Tâche,
La Tâche,
you have Les Richebourg, you have Le Clos Vougeot,
Yes.
which are Grand Cru. It's less than I think something like 2 or 3% of the whole surface
Yeah.
in Burgundy. So it's very.
We're speaking of
small.
wine that can retail at thousands of dollars, right, for one bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
It's crazy.
the summit.
But it's so rare. It's nothing. It's just nothing.
Yeah. I understand. So now, the second one is called. That's a very famous name. So this is Meursault. So
Exactly,
once again,
yes.
this was. So you understand. This is a regional appellation. This is a village
Exactly.
appellation. Okay. So this is a broader. So normally this one is a little bit less. This one is more affordable, and then we go to the village itself. So tell us about Meursault. Where is it located? And
Meursault is the heart of what we call the Golden Triangle in Côte d'Or. The three very famous villages for whites, the Great Terroir, Puligny-Montrachet, Chassagne-Montrachet, and Meursault.
Okay.
That's a special area with great terroir for white, especially.
Okay.
You don't have. The amount of Pinot Noir in this area is very small.
Okay.
It's mainly whites.
Okay.
With a lot of different kind of terroir. Some Premier Cru, some Grand Cru.
Yeah.
And it's something like maybe 6 or 7 kilometers south from Beaune.
Okay.
So it's Côte de Beaune.
How would you describe this wine in terms of taste and in terms of because Meursault is kind of typical, right? It's
yes,
a very typical
it's
taste.
supposed to be. The soil on this area is very clear, white, stony.
Yes.
It's so it gives this kind of. When you speak about Meursault, you can't avoid speaking about minerality, which is
okay. It's very mineral.
the exactly pure expression of Chardonnay. So
Yes.
that's what we can expect from this
From a
kind of
Meursault.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we switch to, of course, I know that you're producing a Grand Cru and Corton Charlemagne.
We're producing only few bottles of that.
Yes.
Which are not even on the price list because it's less than 500 bottles. So
Okay.
Just for
okay.
fun.
Sorry, don't forget, but they do
So that's
produce
not a
Corton
large part of the
Charlemagne. Now we
production.
are reaching the very 500 bottle for a producer. It's like almost nothing.
Yeah.
When you open 2 bottles, or when you open 50 bottles, which is possible in a year, for example, it means you open 10% of your production of Corton Charlemagne. So we will skip this one. So now let's see what we have here. We have here, I don't know how, in which order. Okay. Yeah, so let's start with a very famous village called Vosne Romanée, from which is hailing some extremely famous, even if we can say the most famous houses and the most famous domains of Bourgogne are from this region. So of course Vosne Romanée is a kind of everything around Von Romanet start to be, can carry this kind of, kind of I would say, a legend of Bourgogne?
You can say it's a legend, and it's, you know, the Burgundian vineyard was planted and identified by the monks at the Middle Age, so a long history, and they were the first to guess that something is incredible at this place, and something makes that from 1 meter to another, that gives something different.
They discovered that. Yeah.
Yes, and the monks' work 1,000 years ago is fundator for the wine comprehension in Burgundy, and especially in this area of the Côte de Beaune with the monks from some abbeys around, who worked very hard on the Clos Vougeot, on Von Romanet and all the Grand Cru, and who found the limitations between one and the other appellation there.
So I can give you an advice for you. If you find Domaine de Selvilla, Von Romanet in your shop, well, you can buy it with closed eyes. I mean, don't close your eyes. Well, don't close your eyes on your credit card, but you can buy it with closed eye in terms of quality, of course, because this is a fantastic wine. Then we're going to move. I keep the Savigny-les-Beaunes for the end because we may open one of those two. Then we have here what we call a Pommard Premier Cru. So it's interesting for me to show you this in that sequence, because we started with a Bourgogne. It was actually a Chardonnay, but you have the same in Pinot Noir, if I'm right. So it's a regional appellation, and then you have a village appellation. For example, Savigny-les-Beaunes. For example, Meursault. And then here we have what we call a Pommard Premier Cru. So I never knew how to translate cru in English. I think there's no translation for that.
No, I don't think so.
No, it's basically, Pommard, it's a village. And then Premier Cru, it's some of parcels of the Pommard soil and place. Some of them are classified as Premier Cru. We have Grand Cru also in Pommard?
Not in Pommard.
Not in Pommard. They only have Premier Cru. So as he was explaining, it was classified, and so we decided that this one is called Les Epenots, which is kind of famous.
Yes, it is. Les Epenots is the historic name of the place here. This small area is called Les Epenots. And as it's a very high quality terroir, they decided years and years ago that it would be classified onto the Premier Cru category.
Premier Cru,
So if it's a Premier Cru, you have to write on the bottle the name of which one, which is Les Epenots, this specific place.
You can only write Premier Cru without naming.
You only can do that if you blend two different terroirs of Premier Cru, where the names are not the same. But it's not really Bourguignon to do that, because we are trying to explain a specific place through the wine. So blending is
no, it's not part of the tradition at all, and it's not the style. So you understand, this is a Bourgogne, which is coming from the village of Pommard, and as it is a Premier Cru, it's coming from this place called Les Epenots, which is a very specific place in the village of Pommard. And
it's a very small cuvée for us, because it's less than 1,000 bottles. It's about 3 barrels of wine every year, so it's very small.
Wow. Yes. So that's, we start, this is almost gold, this thing, Pommard Premier Cru. I must admit that I adore Pommard, and if I'm right, Jean, I ordered 12 bottles recently. It just delivered it to me today, so I'm a very happy man. Tonight and now we're gonna arrive at Savigny-les-Beaunes. So Savigny-les-Beaunes, this one is the village appellation. So I show you, and this other one is a village appellation, but with a specific parcel. So this one has no name under. It's called Savigny-les-Beaunes, and this one is called Les Gaulards, which is maybe your signature wine.
Yes, right? It's exactly what we were looking for when we decided to build our own vineyard. That means I was looking for kind of small pearls on medium appellations. And finding this kind of amazing terroir in not a very, very well known appellation like Savigny was very, very nice for me. It's something very specific because it's an high elevation place in Savigny. It's at the top of the hill. It's south facing whereas all the rest of the vineyard is southeast facing, so it's a specific sun facing, with a very strong strip and steep and very on a very rocky place. When you are speaking about
so it's difficult to harvest. It's difficult
to work actually, because as you know, as an organic vineyard, we don't use any chemicals. So
I forgot that I mean, most of the domain is organic now, if not everything. And this one specifically, you see, he has this little green certification. Actually, you have two certifications, right?
Yes, one is French, the other one is European.
This one is European, right? Yeah, this one is from Europe, and this one is French. So this is organic. I don't want to speak too much about the technique behind organic. Just in a nutshell, organic, you move away from your vineyard anything which is chemical, specifically pesticides, and to be able to monitor and to master the disease and also the herbs that you have to remove from your vineyard, and you replace this with organic material.
Exactly.
That's all. Okay, but we said that's all. It makes the whole difference. And you know that these days, being organic for all the big names in Burgundy is almost a given. I mean, it's like we say in French, bon sens paysan. That it's like a good sense for. Jean was explaining to me a little bit before this interview that when you explain Burgundy, it's such a tiny strip of land with some very specific soil that has been discovered by those monks. So you explain it's a few kilometers and this is gold literally. And if on this gem you put some pesticides and all stuff like that, it doesn't go well together. Yes, so it's probably why the organic wine is developing very fast. So Legollard, this is how I discovered Maison de Selvilla. This is how I met Jean Lupatelli. And what I suggest now is that we're going to open the bottle. Can we taste Legollard in front of our public? You know what? Sometimes I just say I'm a lucky man. I hope I don't miss the opening. Normally I shouldn't, but
you know what is incredible in Burgundy is Burgundy is made with a lot of very famous names.
Yes.
But for all of them, the only difference is the soil, the specific soil.
Yes.
Of the vineyards, and all of these wines are made with the same density, which is density planting, 10,000 feet per hectare, which is unique. On the same main idea of terroir, clay and limestone. All of these bottles are made in the same winery by the same guy.
Yeah.
And the only difference that we can find on them is the terroir. Okay. That's the best explanation about
You're
terroir.
speaking about the guy for what we speak about is the guy in fact is you.
The guy is me actually.
And so are you explaining to me, because that's very important what you just said, are you explaining to me that your job is not to make the wine pleasing to people? Of course, if they like it, it's better. Your job is to translate the terroir and the soil into wine.
That's the work.
Yeah.
Try to be very light on the winemaking process.
Yes.
Letting the natural yeast work. Don't using a lot of new oak. Try not to make too heavy and strong extraction.
Yes.
Just let it do by itself, looking after that very strongly, and being a part of the terroir translation.
I understand. That's a very Bourguignon approach. You know, for example, we used to say, I don't know, now we can say, we still say the vin du nouveau monde, the wine of the new world, when we speak about Australia, America, California, even if some of them are doing wine since a long time. But whatever, for us, as we call ourselves the old continent, and so we are. But when we speak about the wine of the new world, we speak about wine that have been, the hand of man is sometimes more important than the soil. I don't want to criticize because there's some beautiful ones, but still the point of view and the philosophy of Bourgogne and people like Jean is the contrary, is to say we are at the service of a soil and the soil is not at the service of the winemaker.
Of course.
Wow, I did it well. I did just invented
that's the idea.
That's the idea. I'm so proud of myself. I just invented a formula, you know. And when I visited Jean, he explained to me that is doing the least possible intervention and to make the nature do his job and respect the the salt. So let's taste this Savigny de Bourgogne. Oh, well, I must admit, I know this wine quite well, and I know this vintage. 2015 is a great year, right?
It's supposed to be a very great vintage with a good ripeness, and it's one of the vintages that the wine collector they want to have in their cellar.
That's why I buy a lot of 15.
Because because it's a very complete vintage with good ripeness, large and powerful wines, and very silky tannins, a lot of shining, and so it's a great vintage. Yes.
It's a great vintage. This wine, I love it. Even if Jean told me, because we can go into detail, that in Burgundy we like light wine that will, we don't force the wine, and we like when it's tensed a little bit, right? A little bit of tension.
I'm a very traditional guy, and what is traditional in terms of climate in Burgundy is cool and freshness, actually.
Yes.
And we really need this kind of balance on our wines, on the acidity and the freshness, especially for Pinot Noir. And 2015 is supposed to be a great vintage, and I agree with that.
It is great vintage.
But it's not very classic and very casual vintage for Burgundy. 2014 could be more classic, with a bit more freshness, more acidity, but
you are a very conservative and traditional Bourguignon. I am a very, how do you say that, passionate consumer. And I love this 2015, and it's maybe because
actually I do as well.
Because it's very opulent, and it's very, for a Burgundy it's incredibly opulent.
And what is amazing on this vintage is that they are very open when very young, and they have a really long aging potential, which is unique.
Okay, so let's try this. So I don't know, I don't want to give you a lesson on tasting, but basically, normally I'm going to try it first. So put a little bit of oxygen. So I don't know what's the. I've been reading recently. Who told us that somebody was quite influential in the world of wine. He said, because me, I have a tendency, because I work in the movie industry and the audiovisual industry, so we always look for the light. And so I have a tendency to do that. And many people said to me, it's better to do this. And I don't know why. Is it snobism or?
No, I think it's to realize that color is not the more important on wine, and especially on Pinot Noir, which I said like is a very, very light variety, very poor in terms of polyphenols, color. And if you, as a winemaker, you really want to do a very dark and deep colored wine, you will make strong extraction.
Yes.
You will have a very deep and beautiful color, and you will have very tannic, hard, rustic wines, which is not the goal. So, I mean, looking at the color as a winemaker is the last thing that I want to hear about. You know?
Even if the consumer will love it because there's beautiful colors. Well, I do one trick normally. I do one thing that I like to put it with a white behind. When you have the color white, you know, a white piece of marble or a white piece of paper, then you can appreciate the color. Very light red, so I'm going to, I can say it's Gollard, it's very specific. It's delicious. So, the first time I met my family in America, years ago, before I married my beautiful wife, and my family, some people in my family like wine. And the first time I made some noise like that, I really did this and I did this and I started to chew literally the wine as we do here. And to really, they were looking at me like I was falling from the moon. I said, what, this guy is making noise? He's gonna maybe, I don't know, blow his nose in the middle of the, you know, and it was better. But it is the way, and it is the way we French, we do it.
Of course it is.
Because, you know, to allow the aromas to really, you know, literally cover your palate, and you have to do it. So I'll do it again, okay? So. And then you swallow. So. It's funny because it's a strange experience for me. I am serving Savigny de Bourgogne Gollard, which is a beautiful wine, believe me, from Domaine de Villa, to the man who made it. So it's kind of an experience for me. So I hope you love your own wine, but I'm sure you know it very well. And just after, it's just for my team, Cosmas and Benjamin and Sonia, we're gonna keep a glass for you. Here you go.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to offer you one of your wines. So now I would like to see with you. So how would you? Because some people, sometimes I must admit, I hear some people speaking about wine, and it sounds a little bit esoteric to me. Some people are doing poetry almost with it, and specifically, I'm not talking about the winemakers. I'm talking about the journalists or the wine critics. They are, I understand what it is minerality, I understand acidity, I understand freshness, I understand tension, I understand this. And then after, if we go to, I understand white flowers, for example, I understand butter, I understand very basic thing. And I know there's something, I don't know if you use that called the pyramid of taste. I don't know if you use this kind of thing, which is probably taught into. Yeah. You've been
cool stuff, but
yeah. So how first of all, is it? Do you use these words on a daily basis? Is it your job to do that?
Yes, actually, there are two ways of tasting a wine. The first one, as a winemaker, is the very technical way, and with the word that I use when I am in the cellar, alone or with the parts of the team. And we're speaking about tension, acidity, bitterness, and everything, and using very specific and not very romantic language.
Okay.
And the other way is some hours later, with friends next to the fireplace, opening an old beautiful bottle, maybe a blind tasting, and you can just, this tasting is talking to your soul, so it takes special words which are not, which are your words. So the hardest stuff in this exercise is to say the words and be able to say what you think, and sometimes, listening friends speaking wine, actually, you just understand pieces of emotion, some general ideas, even if the words are not very adapted.
Precise. So, it doesn't matter actually.
No, actually, you just have to share the emotions. So all the words are good for that.
So Jean. So how would you describe this wine using technical and sensitive words? How do you perceive your own wine, and how would you describe it?
What we could say as general ideas about this wine is that you can see that on a very ripe vintage like 15, you still have the freshness and the balance, the crispy side of the wine, which is due to the high elevation place and this fresh climate. And it's what I really love in this wine, this freshness and the acidic balance. In terms of flavors and the nose expression, I like this kind of very, very smart red fruit notes, very delicate, and you can smell at the end this kind of, I would say, like a spicy nose, like cinnamon, and some very, very light citrus notes as well. When you're drinking it, you will feel this very velvety tannins and the roundness, which is really due to this beautiful vintage 15.
I love it. I'm going to buy more bottles, but it's sold out. That's the problem.
And it's a good time to open it.
Thank you. We're good. That's, my friend, you are the heart of the French culture right now, because this is so French to speak like that. It means let your soul speak and your emotions speak when you drink a wine. This is a very French approach of thing. I live not half, but part of my life with Sonia, who live in America. The Americans are very pragmatic, so this is why they want to know if it's Pinot Noir or is it Chardonnay or this is, and then they like the idea of having no surprise. You buy a Pinot Noir, you are waiting for something lighter than if you buy a Cabernet Sauvignon, or if you buy even more stronger, a Syrah or whatever, something really, really strong. But here I like this approach of things. So for me, this wine is probably Savigny-les Gollards. It's probably one of my. It's almost crazy to say that, because it's okay. It's not a cheap wine in terms of price, but it's not. It's neither a kind of unaffordable wine.
Of course.
Barely, it's affordable. I have no idea how you retail this. How much it's retailed in the USA?
The French price would be, the public French price would be something like 28.
Yeah, less than 30, or around 30 euros.
Yeah.
And of course, abroad more because of tax and importation and everything. But well, we speak about something which is not, even if it's 50 or 60 bucks, for example, in the USA, is not unaffordable. We're not talking about wines in the thousands of dollars and stuff like that. And still, the style of this wine and is so for me, it's very fresh, but I don't know how to qualify this. There's a kind of a global feeling about this wine, which is very unique, even that I don't find in the normal Savigny.
There are two. I mean, what is unique in this block is first the elevation, which is not common for this vineyard. Okay. And the genetic plant which is planted on this vineyard, which is a massal selection. That means that every vineyard, every vine, every fruit is unique in terms of genetic compared to the other one. It's not clones, it's just massal selection. And it's an old vineyard, more than 80 years old.
Oh, wow.
So this unique genetic patrimony is something very, very unique, and this elevation, this kind of vineyard structure is very unique as well. And that gives this kind of amazing wine with a lot of freshness, something very crispy,
fantastic,
very fruity, and with a good concentration, quite present tannins, but soft tannins, very well integrated. And as it was aged for 18 months in barrels, you can see that you can't feel any wooden taste. That means that the wood is very well integrated, and that's why we wait such a long time, 18 months, to make sure that the wood gives the good, but not the bad, actually.
Absolutely. And that's something that also, I'm sorry, I don't want to focus too much in America, but as you know, I live half of my life there, so it's funny for me to make the differences. But this is what sometimes I really dislike, when the wood is taking over the wine. I mean, it's like, in this case, just go in the forest and, just eat a tree. But, having so much wood, it's, and for me, it's kind of, I don't want to criticize anything, but it's easy. I know that in America they even have the right to put some microscopic wood chips inside the wine.
But that's not winemaking; it's cooking, or I don't know what.
yeah, that's right. But it's not isolated phenomenon. I've seen this many times, and even in appellations that are kind of good level, and they still want this wood and this very strong tannins and stuff like that. Here, all is in subtleties, subtle. Even if this one has a very strong personality in comparison to others.
But it's all what I try to do, translate the terroir. So I try absolutely to avoid every excess, as over extraction, over oaking, over ripeness, all kind of excess, just the fresh fruits coming from great terroir, and then being soft and just wait.
Of course. I have a question, and maybe one of our last questions, because we have to finish this interview, and after we have to finish the bottle, by the way. It's okay, a very pragmatic question. People who want to buy this Domaine de Selvilla, are you distributed pretty much around the world? Because I know it's a small production, but you can be found
It's a small production, but with a large demand on foreign countries. We, as everywhere in Burgundy, we used to export a large part of the production, something like 75%.
Okay.
The rest is distributed in France, in great restaurants and.
You mean on great tables, restaurants?
Some star restaurants, and so that's the French part, and the rest goes everywhere over the road.
Yeah.
And especially on some important countries for us, like Asian countries, Japan mainly.
You sell in Japan?
Yes.
Yes.
Some European countries like Danish, Deutschland, Italy, England, and in USA, which is an important market for us.
So you mean the American people, they appreciate your wine?
Yes, we send some wines every year.
Oh wow! And because I mean, I know that American I'm married with an American, and she's a Bourgogne lover. So that this is actually one of the reasons why we decided to have our base here in France. We are, by the way, we're 1 hour and a half train from Paris, so we can take the train, go to Paris, do our appointment, and coming back here. But it's not. I mean, it's a small production, so it's not the vast majority. The vast majority of American, they like Bordeaux, etc. But if I have one advice to you who are watching this episode from America or from elsewhere, give a chance to Bourgogne. It's not a wine that we are talking about maybe the royalty of wine. Now, I would say it like that. You know, it's really something like totally different, and it's a different experience. It's as you can see, we've been talking more than if we mix the two episodes, more than an hour and 15, and maybe an hour and a half. I don't know at the editing if Greg, our editor, will keep everything, but we've been able to talk about that for now. Okay, it's his job, and I'm a passionate, but still, it's such an interesting wine. It's such an interesting soil that I'm very happy. So thank you very much, Jean, for joining us today. We had a very good moment. And
it was my pleasure.
Yeah, normally we finish all our episodes saying cheers, but this time we're going to cheers literally together. So cheers, Jean.
Cheers, Hugo.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers, everybody. And we give you an appointment to the next episode of Sartorial Talks. Bye-bye, my friends. Thank you.